It's time to stop fooling around. Game day's just about here. And we have our game faces on, whatever that means. Coming up next on Talkin' Tigers. Welcome to Talkin' Tigers. I'm Jim Derry. Was there any more hype needed for LSU-Alabama? Well, if you ask Leonard Fournette, he says his focus isn't on the Heisman or Alabama, but winning the national championship. So maybe there is more need for hype. Just in case, we brought on in our Friday regular, and that's LSU and SEC columnist Ron Higgins, who has seen a few of these Tigers Tide things before. And Ron, welcome into the show. It's almost time.
Yeah, I'm ready for this game to be played, and I love these LSU-Alabama games because these two teams are always pretty evenly matched. The talent they get is comparable. They play similar styles, and so there's no trickery. It's all about execution and who's the best man that day. It's kind of like you go right at each other. It's old-time SEC physical football.
To go along with that, later on in the extra point, I'm going to compare some Russian numbers, but if rushing is the key to this game, then obviously that gives a little bit of a slight edge to LSU. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, and I also think a factor in this game is I think Brandon Harris's legs are going to play a factor in this thing. You know, Brandon Harris is an excellent, option runner off the read option, and he's made great decisions this year when to pull the ball out of Leonard Fournette's belly and keep it. And a lot of times, Brandon gets 15, 20 yards on a run. And I think maybe that's something Alabama hasn't seen much on film, but we've seen it here 5 or 6 times this year. And so I think that's kind of like a wild card factor in all of this. Speaking
of Brandon Harris, the Les Miles and Cam Cameron have done a really good job of making sure that Brandon Harris has thrown the ball a little bit more the past 3-4 weeks. Every week it seems like they open it up a little bit more. Could that pay dividends on Saturday as well?
Absolutely. Last 3 weeks he's been over 200 yards passing. They've opened up a bit more every week, every game, the last 3 games. You can see his confidence grow from week to week. He's accurate. He's got 2 guys, and Trayvon Durrell and Malachi Dupree, who can adjust to his throws. And I also think somehow the tight end's going to come into play in this game because they haven't thrown to the tight end a lot, more than usual, but not a lot. And I also think they'll try out everything in the playbook, throwing the running backs, throwing the tight ends. Really spreading the ball around because Brandon Harris can spread the ball around.
Well, Les Miles has done a really good job the past 6-8 years or so of pulling things out of his trick bag. You think he's got something ready for Coach Saban here?
Well, you never know what Les is going to pull out. Something we've seen the flea flicker this year. We've seen the fake field goal. I wouldn't be surprised to see a halfback pass from Leonard Fournette because he can throw the ball really well, and that's something we haven't seen this year. So you never know what Les has left in there.
I saw him throw the ball quite a few times when he was at St. Aug. Hey, let's talk about the defense a little bit, and what are the keys to victory for the Tigers defense? They've been sort of a mixed bag this season. They've looked fantastic, and they've looked not so fantastic.
Yeah, they've blown hot and cold, and a lot of that has to do with the secondary. There's been so many busts. Almost every game, a receiver running wide open to where you and I could catch the ball if we were one of the receivers. And they worked hard on this in the open date week. I talked to several of the defensive secondary members. Jalen Mills, in particular, says it's a matter of communication, and they will get that cleaned up this week. They've worked really hard and practiced on cutting those busts out.
Well, depending on where you look, LSU's about a touchdown down underdog, which seems sort of strange for a team that's ranked number 2 in the opening college playoff poll. But where do you see this one? We're ready for your prediction.
Well, look at this one. LSU didn't have a very good offense last year at all, and really had a better Alabama team than this year's team on the ropes, and Baton Rouge should have won the game. I think LSU has more explosive playmakers than this Alabama team does. I think Alabama's defense is good, but it's not, like in the past where you just totally wowed by it. So I see this one, LSU 24, Alabama 20.
Well, for what it's worth, and you could be in real trouble because I agree with you. So We'll see how it works out. Ron, thanks for taking time out to join us. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
All right. Today's extra point, if you're looking for a key to victory, I have an easy one, and it favors the Tigers, as Ron and I talked about a little bit earlier. 8 out of the past 10 times these two teams have faced off, the team who rushes for more yards wins the game. It's that simple. The only games that this hasn't come to fruition was last year in a 20-13 loss when LSU outrushed Alabama 183-106, and in 2008 when the Tigers had 201 rushing yards compared to the Tide's 138. In other words, if you're rooting for LSU, then the Heisman frontrunner needs to have one of his better games. Like we didn't know that anyway. I like his chances. Well, vote in our poll to let us know who you think will win, and we'll see you on Tuesday to recap it all. Have a great weekend and enjoy the game.